Hey, so I was playing earlier my music, and when we reach our tip and donation goals for streams, I do this, which is bedtime story reading of Harry Potter. Right now, at least. I mean, maybe we'll move on to other books at another time, but right now we are reading Harry Potter. We're on book 5, Order of the Phoenix, chapter 26. If you have the book hardback, it's 586. No, wait, sorry, 587. And here we go. Just a second. Oh, shoot. I forgot to do a raid last time I was on Twitch. Oops, totally forgot. Okay. Please help me remember this time. And how do I go to the chat? There we go. Is anyone here yet? Okay, hi. Let me wait until a couple more people get in here and say hi. Hi, Trev. Hi, David. I'm sorry I forgot to raid last time. But I will hopefully remember at the end of this one. All right. We're on page 587. Harry and Ron waited until break next morning to tell Hermione exactly what had happened. They wanted to be absolutely sure they could not be overheard. Standing in their usual corner of the cool and breezy courtyard, Harry told her every detail of the dream he could remember. When he had finished, she said nothing at all for a few moments, but stared with a kind of painful intensity at Fred and George, who were both headless and selling their magical hats from under their cloaks on the other side of the yard. "So that's why they killed him," she said quietly, withdrawing her gaze from Fred and George at last. "When Bode tried to steal this weapon, something funny happened to him. I think there must be defensive spells on it or around it to stop people from touching it. That's why he was in St. Mungo's. His brain had gone all funny and he couldn't talk. But remember what the healer told us? He was recovering, and they couldn't risk him getting better, could they? I mean, the shock of whatever happened when he touched that weapon probably made the Imperious curse lift. Once he'd got his voice back, he'd explain what he'd been doing, wouldn't he? They would have known he'd been sent to steal the weapon. Of course, it would have been easy for Lucius Malfoy to put the curse on him. Never out of the Ministry, is he? He was even hanging around the day I had my hearing," said Harry. Hang on," he said slowly. "He was in the Department of Mysteries corridor that day. Your dad said he was probably trying to sneak down and find out what happened in my hearing. But what if—" "Sturgis," gasped Hermione, looking thunderstruck. "Sorry," said Ron, looking bewildered. "Sturgis Podmore," said Hermione breathlessly. "Arrested for trying to get through a door. Lucius Malfoy got him too. I bet he did it the day you saw him there, Harry. Sturgis had Moody's invisibility cloak, right? So what if he was standing guard by the door, invisible, and Malfoy heard him move, or guessed he was there, or just did the Imperious curse on the off chance that a guard was there? So when Sturgis next had an opportunity, probably when it was his turn on guard duty again, he tried to get into the department to steal the weapon for Voldemort. Ron, be quiet. But he got caught and sent to Azkaban." She gazed at Harry. "And now Rookwood's told Voldemort how to get the weapon?" "I didn't hear all the conversation, but that's what it sounded like," said Harry. "Rookwood used to work there. Maybe Voldemort will send Rookwood to do it." Hermione nodded, apparently still lost in thought. Then, quite abruptly, she said, "But you shouldn't have seen this at all, Harry." "What?" he said, taken aback. "You're supposed to be learning how to close your mind to this sort of thing," said Hermione, suddenly stern. "I know I am," said Harry, "but, well, I think we should just try and forget what you saw," said Hermione firmly. "And you ought to put in a bit more effort on your occlumency from now on." Harry was so angry with her that he did not talk to her for the rest of the day, which it proved to be another bad one. When people were not discussing the escaped Death Eaters in the corridors today, they were laughing at Gryffindor's abysmal performance in their match against Hufflepuff. The Slytherins were singing "Weasley is our king" so loudly and frequently that by sundown Filch had banned it from the corridors out of sheer irritation. The week did not improve as it progressed. Harry received 2 more Ds in potions, which was still on tenterhooks that Hagrid might get the sack, and could not stop himself from dwelling on the dream in which he had seen Voldemort. though he did not bring it up to Ron and Hermione again, because he did not want another telling off from Hermione. He wished very much that he could have talked to Sirius about it, but that was out of the question, so he tried to push the matter to the back of his mind. Yeah, I saw. That's why I remember that I didn't raid, because I saw your comment just now. Unfortunately, the back of his mind was no longer the secure place it had once been. Get up, Potter. A couple of weeks after his dream of Rookwood, Harry was to be found yet again, kneeling on the floor of Snape's office, trying to clear his head. He had just been forced yet again to relive a stream of very early memories he had not even realized he still had, most of them concerning humiliations Dudley and his gang had inflicted upon him in primary school. That last memory, said Snape. What was it? I don't know, said Harry, getting wearily to his feet. He was finding it increasingly difficult to disentangle separate memories from the rush of images and sound that Snape kept calling forth. You mean the one where my cousin tried to make me stand in the toilet? No, said Snape softly. I mean the one concerning a man kneeling in the middle of a darkened room. It's nothing, said Harry. Snape's dark eyes bored into Harry's. Remembering that Snape had said what Snape had said about eye contact being crucial in legitimacy, Harry blinked and looked away. Hi, Waycan. How did that man and that room come to be inside your head, Potter? Said Snape. Said Harry, looking everywhere but at Snape. It was just a dream I had. A dream, repeated Snape. There was a pause during which Harry stared fixedly at a large dead frog suspended in a purple liquid in its jar. Do you know why we are here? You do know why we are here, don't you, Potter? Said Snape in a low, dangerous voice. You do know why I am giving up my evenings to this tedious job. Yes, said Harry stiffly. Remind me why we are here, Potter. So I can learn occlumency, said Harry, now glaring at a dead eel. Correct, Potter. And dim though you may be, Harry looked back at Snape, hating him. I would have thought that after 2 months' worth of lessons you might have made some progress. How many other dreams about the Dark Lord have you had? Just the one, lied Harry. Perhaps, said Snape, his dark, cold eyes narrowing slightly. Perhaps you actually enjoy having these visions and dreams, Potter. Maybe they make you feel special, important. No, they don't, said Harry, his jaw set and his fingers clenched tightly around the handle of his wand. That is just as well, Potter, said Snape coldly, because you are neither special nor important, and it is not up to you to find out what the Dark Lord is saying to his Death Eaters. No, that's your job, isn't it? Harry shot at him. He had not meant to say it. It had burst out of him in temper. For a long moment they stared at each other, Harry convinced he had gone too far. But there was a curious, almost satisfied expression on Snape's face when he answered. Yes, Potter, he said, his eyes glinting. That is my job. Now, if you are ready, we will start again. Sorry. He raised his wand, his own wand. Protego! Snape staggered. Oh, oops. Oh, he raised his wand. 1, 2, 3. Legilimens! 100 Dementors were swooping toward Harry across the lake and the grounds. He screwed up his face in concentration. They were coming closer. He could see the dark holes beneath their hoods, yet he could also see Snape standing in front of him, his eyes fixed upon Harry's face, muttering under his breath. And somehow Snape was growing clearer, and the Dementors were growing fainter. Harry raised his own wand. Protego! Snape staggered. His wand flew upward, away from Harry. And suddenly Harry's mind was teeming with memories that were not his. A hook-nosed man was shouting at a cowering woman, while a small dark-haired boy cried in a corner. A greasy-haired teenager sat alone in a dark room, pointing his wand at the ceiling, shooting down flies. A girl was laughing as a scrawny boy tried to mount a bucking broomstick. Enough! Harry felt as though he had been pushed hard in the chest. He took several staggering steps backward, hit some of the shelves covering Snape's walls, and heard something crack. Snape was shaking slightly, very white in the face. The back of Harry's robes were damp. One of the jars behind him had broken when he fell against it. The pickled, slimy thing within was swirling in its draining potion. Reparo, hissed Snape, and the jar sealed itself once more. Well, Potter, that was certainly an improvement. Panting slightly, Snape straightened the pensieve in which he had again stored some of his thoughts before starting the lesson, almost as though checking that they were still there. I don't remember telling you to use a shield charm, but there is no doubt that it was effective. Harry did not speak. He felt that to say anything might be dangerous. He was sure he had just broken into Snape's memories, that he had just seen scenes from Snape's childhood. And it was unnerving to think that the crying little boy who had watched his parents shouting was actually standing in front of him with such loathing in his eyes. "Let's try again, shall we?" said Snape. Harry felt a thrill of dread. He was about to pay for what had just happened, he was sure of it. They moved back into position with the desk between them, Harry feeling he was going to find it much harder to empty his mind this time. On the count of 3, then. Wait, Ken, did you send a sticker on YouTube? Is that what just happened? Thank you. I can only see on Hi Jose. I can only see on Restream. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's so generous. Thank you for that. You guys are awesome. I'll do a little dance. All right. Thank you so much. It's a little dog. It says, yeah, it showed the amount and then Shiba dog jumping in the air with fireworks around him. Woohoo! I don't know. This is fireworks. Yeah, good seeing you too. All right. 1, on the count of 3 then, said Snape, raising his wand once more. 1, 2. Harry did not have time to gather himself together and attempt to clear his mind, for Snape had already cried, "Legilimens!" He was hurtling along the corridor toward the Department of Mysteries, past the blank stone walls, past the torches. The plain black door was growing even larger, ever larger. He was moving so fast he was going to collide with it. He was feet from it, and he could see that chink of faint blue light again. The door had flown open. He was through it at last, inside a black-walled, black-floored, circular room lit with blue flame candles, and there were more doors all around him. He needed to go on, but which door ought he to take? Potter! Harry opened his eyes. He was flat on his back again, with no memory of having gotten there. He was also panting, as though he had run the length of the Department of Mysteries corridor, really had sprinted through the black door and found the circular room. "Explain yourself," said Snape, who was standing over him, looking furious. I don't know what happened," said Harry truthfully, standing up. There was a lump on the back of his head from where he had hit the ground, and he felt feverish. "I've never seen that before. I told you I've dreamed about the door, but it's never opened before." "You are not working hard enough." "Yeah, I just enabled it like yesterday or the day before." For some reason, Snape seemed even angrier than he had done 2 minutes before, when Harry had seen it into his own memories. "You are lazy and sloppy, Potter. It is small wonder that the Dark Lord—" "Can you tell me something, sir?" said Harry, firing up again. "Why do you call Voldemort the Dark Lord? I've only ever heard Death Eaters call him that." Snape opened his mouth in a snarl, and a woman screamed from somewhere outside the room. Snape's head jerked upward. He was gazing at the ceiling. "What the?" he muttered. Harry could hear a muffled commotion coming from what he thought might be the entrance hall. Snape looked around at him, frowning. "Did you see anything unusual on your way up here, down here, Potter?" Harry shook his head. Somewhere above them, the woman screamed again. Snape strode to his office door, his wand still held at the ready, and swept out of sight. Harry hesitated for a moment, then followed. The screams were indeed coming from the entrance hall. They grew louder as Harry ran toward the stone steps leading up from the dungeons. When he reached the top, he found the entrance hall packed. Students had come flooding out of the great hall where dinner was still in progress to see what was going on. Others had crammed themselves onto the marble staircase. Harry pushed forward through a knot of tall Slytherins and saw that the onlookers had formed a great ring, some of them looking shocked, others even frightened. Professor McGonagall was directly opposite Harry on the other side of the hall. She looked as though what she was watching made her feel faintly sick. "Professor Trelawney," was standing in the middle of the entrance hall, with her wand in one hand and an empty sherry bottle in the other, looking utterly mad. Her hair was sticking up on end. Her glasses were lopsided so that one eye was magnified more than the other. Her innumerable shawls and scarves were trailing haphazardly from her shoulders, giving the impression that she was falling apart at the seams. 2 large trunks lay on the floor beside her, one of them upside down. It looked very much as though it had been thrown down the stairs after her. Professor Trelawney was staring, apparently terrified at something Harry could not see, but that seemed to be standing at the foot of the stairs. "Hey, Michael!" "No!" she shrieked. "No! This cannot be happening! It cannot! I refuse to accept it!" "You didn't realize this was coming?" said a high, girlish voice, sounding callously amused, and Harry, moving slightly to his right, saw that Trelawney's terrifying vision was nothing other than Professor Umbridge. "Incapable though you are of predicting even tomorrow's weather, you must surely have realized that your pitiful performance during my inspections and lack of any improvement would make it inevitable you would be sacked." "You can't!" howled Professor Trelawney, tears streaming down her face from behind her enormous lenses. "You can't sack me. I've been here 16 years. Hogwarts is my home." "It was your home," said Professor Umbridge, and Harry was revolted to see the enjoyment stretching her toad-like face as she watched Professor Trelawney sink, sobbing uncontrollably, onto one of her trunks. "Until an hour ago, when the Minister of Magic countersigned the order for your dismissal. Now, kindly remove yourself from this hall. You are embarrassing us." But she stood and watched, with an expression of gloating enjoyment, as Professor Trelawney shuddered and moaned, rocking backward and forward on her trunk in paroxysms of grief. Paroxysms. Harry heard a sob to his left and looked around. Lavender and Parvati were both crying silently, their arms around each other. Then he heard footsteps. Professor McGonagall had broken away from the spectators, marched straight up to Professor Trelawney, and was patting her firmly on the back while withdrawing a large handkerchief from within her robes. There, Sybil, calm down. Blow your nose on this. It's not as bad as you think now. You're not going to have to leave Hogwarts." "Oh, really, Professor McGonagall?" said Umbridge in a deadly voice, taking a few steps forward. "And your authority for that statement is?" "Hey, Mark." "Hey, Richard." Yeah, this is book 5, Order of the Phoenix. "That would be mine," said a deep voice. The oak front doors had swung open. Students beside them scuttled out of the way as Dumbledore appeared in the entrance. What he had been doing out in the grounds Harry could not imagine, but there was something impressive about the sight of him framed in the doorway against an oddly misty night. Leaving the doors wide behind him, he strode forward through the circle of onlookers toward the place where Professor Trelawney sat, tear-stained and trembling, upon her trunk, Professor McGonagall alongside her. "Yours, Professor Dumbledore," said Umbridge with a singularly unpleasant little laugh. "I'm afraid you do not understand the position. I have here," she pulled a parchment scroll from within her robes, "an order of dismissal signed by myself and the Minister of Magic. Under the terms of Educational Decree number 23, the High Inquisitor of Hogwarts has the power to inspect, place upon probation, and sack any teacher that is to say I, feel is not performing up to the standard required by the Ministry of Magic. I have decided that Professor Trelawney is not up to scratch. I have dismissed her." To Harry's very great surprise, Dumbledore continued to smile. He looked down at Professor Trelawney, who was still sobbing and choking on her trunk, and said, "You're quite right, of course, Professor Umbridge. As High Inquisitor, you have every right to dismiss my teachers. You do not, however, have the authority to send them away from the castle. I am afraid," he went on with a courteous little bow, "that the power to do that still resides with the headmaster. And it is my wish that Professor Trelawney continue to live at Hogwarts." At this, Professor Trelawney gave a wild little laugh, in which a hiccup was barely hidden. "No, I'll go, Dumbledore. I shall leave Hogwarts and seek my future elsewhere." "No," said Dumbledore sharply. "It is my wish that you remain, Sybil." He turned to Professor McGonagall. Might I ask you to escort Sybil back upstairs, Professor McGonagall? Of course, said McGonagall. Up you get, Sybil. Professor Sprout came hurrying forward out of the crowd and grabbed Professor Trelawney's other arm. Together they guided her past Umbridge and up the marble stairs. Professor Flitwick went scurrying after them, his wand held out before him. He squeaked, Locomotor trunks! And Professor Trelawney's luggage rose into the air and proceeded up the staircase after her, Professor Flitwick bringing up the rear. Oh my gosh, Mark, that's amazing. So they're playing a full hour of my music at your job? That's awesome. A sudden attack or violent expression of a particular emotion or activity, a paroxysm. Cool. I mean, I feel like I knew what that meant from context, but I said it wrong. I was like, paroxysm. Anyway. The magic of reading. Okay. Professor Umbridge was still at Dumbledore, who continued to smile benignly. And what, she said in a whisper that nevertheless carried all around the entrance hall, are you going to do with her once I appoint a new divination teacher who needs her lodgings? Oh, that won't be a problem, said Dumbledore pleasantly. You see, I have already found us a new divination teacher, and he will prefer lodgings on the ground floor. You've found? Said Umbridge shrilly. You've found? Might I remind you, Dumbledore, that under Educational Decree 22, the Ministry has the right to appoint a suitable candidate if, and only if, the headmaster is unable to find one, said Dumbledore, and I am happy to say that on this occasion I have succeeded. May I introduce you? He turned to face the open front doors, through which night mist was now drifting. Harry heard hoofs. There was a shocked murmur around the hall, and those nearest the doors hastily moved even farther backward, some of them tripping over in their haste to clear a path for the newcomer. Through the mist came a face Harry had seen once before on a dark, dangerous night in the Forbidden Forest. White blonde hair and astonishingly blue eyes, the head and torso of a man joined to the palomino body of a horse. This is Firenze, said Dumbledore happily to a thunderstruck Umbridge. I think you'll find him suitable. That's an amazing emoji. All right, that's the end of the chapter. Good pausing spot for tonight. Thank you, everyone who sent support with stickers and stars and everything. And I will be back again streaming tomorrow. Probably around the same time, around 5 or 5:30. Yeah. Or maybe I should do it after dinner. Yeah. Remember I was saying I get so hungry and frustrated before? I'll have to think about it. But thank you. You guys are amazing. Please do subscribe or follow if you don't already, and join my mailing list community if you haven't already. It's right here. You can get a free gift of exclusive merch just for joining. And you get huge discounts and all kinds of stuff. It's totally free. Please join because it helps me and you to be able to communicate with you directly rather than trying to having to deal with the algorithms and not seeing my stuff and whatever. And also, please don't forget that if you want to get some of my music, I have vinyls and CDs. I also have merch like sleep masks. Here, I'll show you one. Almost dropped my guitar. This is a sleep mask. I have a song called Meet You in Our Dream. And it has like a really pretty Milky Way design, and it's silk on this side against your skin, and it blocks out all the light, and it's just lovely. I use it every night. I have those. I have candles. I have t-shirts and hoodies. And and also digital stuff. If you buy anything that you buy on my website, chrisangelis.com/store. I will be giving proceeds to Alzheimer's research this month, and it'll be 3x, 3 times. Like, they're gonna match it 3 times. Yeah, I use it all the time too. So check it out, and I'll see you again soon. Oh, I'm not gonna forget to raid. Any raid suggestions? Anyone? Let's see. Should I do DJ Maseo, Terrace Land? What's that? No, music. Kid Yuki, Chika Tatsuya, Alicia Martin. Should I do? If you see anyone else that you think I should go to, or I might just go ahead and raid one of these that I can see the recommended channels. I have no idea who would be good to raid. Is Trevor here? New Baroque? Ooh. I guess I could go and do New Baroque. I'll do that. All right. Ready? Raid now! Yay!